Good morning and welcome back. I hope you all had a wonderful first session filled with learning, perhaps community, new connections. How do you know it is All District Day? Winter All District Day? Because it is the first day since early November when the sun will set after 5 p.m. That'll be the only applause I get all day. All right. So I think we're gonna walk through some of the typical welcome, safety, all those things. So, nearest restrooms, as you may or may not know, we have a lot of new folks. So if you go out that door, you can find restrooms up the stairs or down the stairs. If you go to the stairway in the back, you can find restrooms down the stairs on the back corner there. Exits, there's exits at all four corners of this. Now I feel like I'm in an airplane. Evacuation, fire alarm, grab your belongings if possible. Exit the building via the nearest safe exit. Don't run toward the exit where a fire might be. Hopefully there are no fires. Move a safe distance away from the building and await instructions. There's an AED located. The nearest one is at the front desk here in the HEC. And for COVID safety, please be mindful and respectful of your colleagues' preferences regarding masks and distancing. Do not cough on your friends. Zoom and HyFlex engagement. Hello, Zoom participants. We ask that you remain as present as possible, including keeping cameras on during the synchronous Zoom and HyFlex sessions. If you have a comment, you can use the raise your hand feature. There's a new chat option in Teams for virtual attendees. You should have gotten a notice of this when you got your Zoom link communication. Please be mindful that everything we put in Teams is public record, so manage your chat with kindness. If you need technical support, you can use the chat to connect with one of our facilitators, of which there are a few.
So we now would like to recognize and welcome the new employees that we have, and we are going to kick off with...
Oh wait.
What?
You. We didn't introduce ourselves. I just realized that's really faux pas for a presentation. Hi, I'm Matt Campbell. I'm serving as the president at Pierce College Fort Silicon.
And I am Tyler Flores, the Puyallup president. Thank you.
We did that to build anticipation, like the award show. We're about to tell you who the new employees are, but before we do, we're going to take with these messages. All right.
Thank you. So recognizing and welcoming new employees. First and foremost here, Alex Barnes, our Director of Basic Needs.
Vitaly Bravo, Campus Safety Officer.
Antonio Brito, Assistant Professor of Pediatry.
Martina Church, Library and Archives, Paraprofessional 2.
Jody Coram, Assistant Facilities Director.
Amity Holmes, Assistant Professor of Dental Hygiene.
Brighton Hahn, Ground Service Specialist 3.
Devontae Isom, Lab Staff Program Specialist 2.
Davy Coleman, Dean of Student Engagement.
Julia Kulev, Lab Staff Program Specialist 2.
Ryan Lukai, Media Assistant 2.
Michaela Oskveg, Education Program Coordinator.
Lenny Palmasino Sano, Financial Aid Program Specialist.
I appreciate that cheering. That was some good cheering up here in the front. Samantha Prantel, Library and Archive. Oh, it didn't go. There you go. Library and Archives Paraprofessional 2.
Kyla Singleton, Earth Science Lab Technician and STEM Outreach Specialist.
Hubbard Smith, Child Care Lead Cook.
Erin Tofty, Director of Budget Management and Planning.
And Kyle Waterman, Assistant Professor of EMS. welcome all to Pierce College. It's almost certain that we missed someone. So turn and look at, if you don't know the person next to you, introduce yourself, welcome them and yourself to Pierce College. All right.
All right.
And now, a man who needs no introduction. I'm looking at you, Brett. We are pleased to welcome to the stage 10-year veteran of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Brett Willis.
Thank you. Thank you both. Good morning. All right. I can't say this enough. I'm representing the board today, and it's been an honor serving on this board. But we can't say this enough to you. Thank you for all the hard work you guys do. Higher ed across the country right now is not easy. And we know there's so much work to be done. But year after year, for the last 10 years, I've been amazed at what gets accomplished here at Pierce, how entrepreneurial we are, how dedicated you are, and everything that we do, at least from the board's perspective, and I know from yours too, is to support our students. So thank you. Your efforts do not go unnoticed. Enrollment is up here, and Pierce is near the top, which isn't surprising because we always strive to be number one. And while we know we're behind pre-COVID, pre-pandemic enrollment levels, we know that everyone is working hard to get us back there. So again, thank you. Next month, I get to join trustees, presidents, chancellors from Washington State and across the country to meet with our federal senators and Congress members. Now, DC right now to me isn't the greatest place to be, but the work that we're going to do back there is important. And for the first time, we're going to take some students to DC with us, because putting a student in front of a legislator and having that student tell their stories, the struggles they go to, the obstacles they overcome, and the support they give is better than anything a trustee, a president, or a chancellor can say to those people. So it's going to be really impactful. We're excited to have them with us, and we look forward to that trip. I hope you take advantage of today. You get some opportunity for some you time, but more importantly, to continue to build the community that we have here, which is really special. Our students are counting on all of us to bring our best to Pierce. So have a good day, have fun. B.B. King said, "The beautiful thing about learning is nobody can take it from you." So thank you, and now I'd like to, let's give it up for Chancellor Dr. Julie White.
Thank you so much, Brett. Hello, everyone. It's always amazing to me to stand up here and just look out at all of you and our community. And as you know, we are really focusing on community building today, and our theme, there you go, good timing, is growing together and flourishing. And so we're going to start off. I just want to. You need no reminder, and yet, as Brett said, I always find it helpful to ground myself in our students and why we're here. So let me see, there we go. So our Marcom team has been highlighting specific students and their stories, representing many different communities and stages in their life. Last All District Day, I talked about Sam Peña-Rojas, our student government president at Pierce College Puyallup. This is Fatima Miller. And I want to read you a little bit about what she has to say about her experience at Pierce. She gives a shout out to Ron Burleson, so yes. And she says, Ron is my Pierce College advisor and my Pierce College father and my Pierce College therapist. No matter what I needed, he was there for me. If I called him crying, saying, this is too hard, he would say, what's hard? Let's figure this out together. She goes on to talk about being a tutor and student mentor, and she says being able to show other students their power and what they are capable of was the best part. Helping other students achieve their goals and giving back everything I've learned, I couldn't have asked for more than that. So we ground ourselves today in our students and their stories and our purpose for why we are here. Now, every all-district day for the past, I am clicking. There we go. Oh, thank you. All right, I've shown you this diagram, and it's to remind us that the journey that we're on is a long one. And it comes with peaks and valleys, and I want to really recognize that we are still climbing towards our goals, and I know it feels like that forever, and it certainly has felt like that for the past 4 years. It's beginning to feel like we're climbing this mountain, just given all of the challenges that we're facing. And so today, what I want to do is acknowledge again some of those challenges, but also the progress that we've made, specifically in the areas of our employees, our students, and our community. So I've been sharing with you the work, our progress in filling staff vacancies. And here I've included every all-district day since last January. I've been telling you what those numbers look like. So for classified staff, in this time last year, we had 25% of our positions were vacant. We're now at 13%. And in administrative exempt, we've gone from 33% to 13%. We're not there yet, and I want to thank everybody who has served on, or is serving on screening committees, HR who's supporting that work. It's been a lot of work, but we are making progress, and as evidenced by the many new faces that we see today. So again, I know that we still have a lot of work to do, and even when we're fully staffed, we are a lean organization because that's the nature of our funding streams. We rely on state allocations and our students' tuition, and we want to keep the students' tuition down and try to always increase the state allocations, and that's a challenging balance at times. But we are making progress, and again, I want to thank you, and I also want to remind you that we need you to serve on screening committees so we can make these hires. Because we have a process that includes representatives from all of our major employee groups and oftentimes students, and we need your work with that, so we appreciate that. I also took a look at our demographics of employees, and this is from a state board dashboard that's available on their site. So one of the things that I wanted to look at is how we're doing in having representation of employees of color. So you can see here that we have continued to increase since 2018 to 2019, and we are especially higher with our classified, and we've increased our full-time faculty of color. Administrative exempt needs more work in that. We're working hard on that. That light blue line is if you put all the categories together, and then our part-time faculty is lagging in representation. So we've got some work to do there, especially in administrative exempt and part-time faculty. I also took a look at how we compare to the state average, and you can see that we are right on par for all employees. And as we saw in the previous slide, we're above the system average in classified and full-time faculty. So just another way to look at that data. And then as we do at Pierce College, I disaggregated the data so that we could see specifically where we have more work to do. You can see that we are not fully representative, period, of our communities, and this tells us a little bit more what that breakdown looks like. So we are particularly lagging in Hispanic, American Indian, Alaskan Native, and Pacific Islander communities. And this is self-reported by our employees. So we've, again, those are areas where we need to do better and increase our efforts. That being said, as I started this out, we have made progress. So I just included here a few of the positions that we've recently filled that especially are positions designed to support faculty and staff in your work in serving students. So you heard many of these individuals announced today. Some of these are positions that we've had interims in for a long time, or we haven't had anyone in the positions for a year or more. So I'm really excited that we've been able to fill them, and wanted to note that. And we will have Employee Recognition Day in May, and we'll celebrate 79 employees who've been here for 5 to 45 years, with over 900 combined years of service. So that promises to be a great day, and hope that those of you who are new, that we'll be celebrating you in 4 to 5 years and beyond. All right, I want to share some information about our students and some of the data that we've been looking at for students. We, as you know, we were selected we were in the top 150 colleges in the country by the Aspen Institute, and that was purely based on our student success data and our success in achieving equitable student outcomes. So we've submitted that application in December. We'll hear this spring about whether or not we make it to the next round. What that gave us the opportunity to do was to dig into our data a little bit more. And I need to have a sidebar here. Those of you who've been here a long time know this. We have been noted for our accessibility of data. And we are a little bit hindered right now in our accessibility of data because of our CTC link conversion, our turnover of staff in IR. And so Allison and Jamie, our mighty IR team, together with Carlos and his team in IT, are working really hard to rebuild dashboards. So every time we make a data request of them, maybe not every time, many times we make a data request of them, they have to go and pull the query and do that work manually. But we will get back to accessible data, to the data democratization that we have been known for. We just have to rebuild in that area. So we looked at some of our student success data. So one of the milestones for student success data, how a predictor of students completing their goals, is completion of college math in the first year. So a couple years ago, we set a goal of where we wanted to be by 2027 for all of our students, and it's at 50% of our students completing college math in the first year. Our math department and English, which I'll talk about next, have done amazing work in supporting our students in achieving this milestone. So you can see here that we are above, so the system average is actually the bottom line, the bottom light blue line. So we are above the system average. We made progress from fall 20 to fall 21 in Hispanic and Black students and got closer to narrowing that equity gap. But we had a drop off for our students 2022 to 2023. So that shows up in the data consistently, which both for us and for the system. So what that tells me is that there's some external factors as well that are contributing to that, which is often the case. But I still want to celebrate the accomplishments that we've made there. And although we've got a drop off, I'm confident that we will continue to trend upwards in that. Completion in college English, I know those lines are all very close, so I'll tell you what they say. We are again above the system average in every category. We are actually above our 2027 goal of 60% of our students completing college English in their first year. So we've made that goal. We just want to maintain it. Yes, let's celebrate. We are above our 2027 goal for Blacks and African American students as well, which is fantastic. We are not improving in Hispanic student outcomes for this metric. And I think that thanks a lot to Hilda Betancourt Lopez, we have begun to understand that we have an increasing population of students who are Hispanic, Latino, and that we have got to pay attention to what those needs are, and this data bears that out. So, want to share where we still have work to do, but again, sometimes I think we don't pause to celebrate the successes that we're having. So I want to share both aspects of that. And then another metric that's really important as to whether students will likely complete their goals is the percent of full-time fall entry students that earn at least 36 credits in their first academic year. We've made good strides here. Again, the equity gaps are narrowing. We still have that drop-off similarly from 2021 to 2022, and in particular, a steeper drop-off. There's actually a fly, sorry, going across the screen here, and I was confused for a minute. I was like, what is moving? Sorry. It was right on the red line, too. Anyway, so we've got a steeper drop-off for our Hispanic Latino students in this area as well. So some areas of work for us. But again, a lot of success to celebrate too. We will continue to stay laser focused on Black and Brown student excellence because we know that that's where we have historically been the least successful and where we need to achieve our equity goals. Talk a little bit about enrollment. I shared this slide with you back in September. It's just a reminder, as Brett said, we are one of the highest in the system as far as where our enrollment is compared to last year. That's great news and great work by all of you. And I shared this at the board meeting, but if you weren't there, you might not have seen it. So here is, the data on the previous slide, again, was comparing spring quarter 2023 and our enrollment 2022 to 2023. Now we've got fall 2023 data. And so we report our data based on funding source because it impacts our revenue. So for state-supported FTEs, we are up 3.8% over last year, which is fantastic. And for a running start, and you may have noticed this, we are up 17.8% in running start, which is incredible. So I especially want to appreciate our admissions, entry, student success coaches, evaluations team, registrar team, all financial aid team, all the folks that are supporting this. You know, our job, the rest of our job now is to keep them here and support their success, right? So with that, I'm going to take a moment and talk about budget and how this relates. Right? We care about enrollment and student success because it's our mission and it's the right thing to do, and it impacts our revenue and how we operate and how we make sure that we maintain the resources that we need to support our students and our communities. So just to bear with me for a moment on budget because I think this is important information. The context is we have an operating budget of approximately $79 million. About 85% of that is in employee salaries. And we also have reserves, our savings account. And I'm just going to talk today about unrestricted reserves because we have restricted reserves we can't draw from, they're policy bound. But our unrestricted reserves are about $20 million. So those are just to give you, again, a context for the conversation. Since the pandemic, we have been drawing from our reserves every year. To the tune of $2 to $5 million. So obviously we can't keep doing that because we won't have a savings account. We won't have a savings account to deal with asbestos abatement, right? We won't have a savings account when a new building runs higher than the state has given us. And these are all things that we have encountered in the past few years. And we need to continue to have a really strong savings account because there is so much unexpected in our context these days, and that doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon, if the past year is any indication. So we have to keep our reserves healthy. I will say that when you take our operating budget, We don't spend all that money every year because we're good stewards of the money that we have. So we do put roughly $1.5 to $2 million that we had budgeted to spend goes back into reserves, generally speaking, every year. And so that's good. We need to keep doing that to the best of our ability. So our goals to reduce our reliance on drawing from reserves is as follows. 3% increase fiscal year 25, 5% fiscal year 26, no pressure international education team, but we do hope and expect that our international student population will come back. That was strongly impacted by both political dynamics and the pandemic over the past 4 years. And then 3% fiscal year 27. Running Start revenue, we're projecting an increase of 5% each year over the next 3 years. These are very conservative projections based on our review of what's happening nationally as well as locally. So I think they're reasonable. It doesn't mean something unexpected couldn't happen that could cause a drop-off. But if we look at these goals and we go back, so if you remember, we're actually in fiscal year 24 right now. But if we look at, let me get back here. Look at this. Remember I said we wanted by fiscal year 25, we wanted a 3% increase in state support. We got a 3.8% this year. And in Running Start, we wanted a 5%, and we got a 17.8% increase in Running Start. Awesome. So we're on target, but I do also want to emphasize that even with this plan, we will still be drawing from reserves for the next several years, the next 3 years. So for fiscal year 24, we're projecting about $2 million draw from reserves, then 1.19, 25, 1.4, 26, and then by 27, 632,000. So that gets us to a very sustainable place over time, gradually, if we achieve these goals. And I believe that we will, and I want to be transparent about where the goals are coming from, what they are, how we will be impacted if we do or don't accomplish those goals. Okay, that was a lot of numbers. Let me just take a breath. We're about to go into budget planning season, so I thought it was important to give you all the landscape that we're dealing with and what our plans are. All right, so now to community. The focus of today is on building community and growing together and flourishing, and I have also shown you this diagram before, but I think repetition is sometimes helpful. Community well-being is impacted by our society, by our personal well-being, and by many factors around us. What we can do is to build a really strong community here at the college. I believe we have done that. I also believe we have had shifting dynamics in that, again, due to the pandemic, due to employee turnover, all of those things. I feel we're in a phase of needing to rebuild some of the community that existed here. And so what I want to do is first ask you to think about this. So now we're moving into the interactive part of the talk, where I'm going to give you some opportunities, those of you in the room, to talk to people at your table, either next to you or the whole table, however you want to do that. In just a second, in Zoom, we will put you in breakout rooms of 3. And so I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to talk about what does it mean to you to be in community. So you can go ahead and do the breakout rooms and turn to your neighbors, and I'll bring us back together in a few minutes. All right, thank you for having those conversations. As I said, you'll have more opportunities to continue them in just a little while and throughout the entire day. Doesn't seem, my clicker is not working. If you could advance. Thank you. All right. So now I'm going to share an experience that I had earlier in my career that really impacted how I think about community, how I think about systems change and policy change. And if you were here in the spring of 2019 and you happened to attend the open forum that I did when I was applying to be president of Pierce College Fort Silicon, you've heard a little bit of this story. So, this was in 1998, I was hired as the first professional staff member of the Women's Center at the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. Yes, and that position came about due to student advocacy. Students, about 2/3 of the students at that institution were male. It was a predominantly white institution, and again, it was an institute of technology, so that tells you something about the culture and the challenges that sometimes come in those fields for women and folks of color and other minoritized populations. So the students advocated for this position. I was lucky enough to be selected for the position, and although it was, like on the org chart, extremely low, there was a lot of visibility for the position because of the student advocacy. And the attitude, there's so many stories I have about this, so I'm just going to try to not tell you too many, but I went to meet with, the president asked to meet with me. And like some of you, when you're asked to meet with president or chancellor, I was like super nervous, like, why does he want to talk to me? I don't know what to say. And I said, so what would you like me to do? And he said, you know, just be available if something bad happens to a woman and talk to her and help her. It's like, well, okay. My vice president was with me and she said, well, you know, she's gonna have to like do some outreach to let people know that she's here, you know, and you know, so the vision from the leadership was, you know, was really not very prominent, just kind of make people feel better, right? I had a different vision, which was to change the culture. And I was lucky enough that we got some federal funding to help us do that. So that's sort of the backdrop. And when I first started, I got emails, why don't we have a men's center? You know, I got lots of emails questioning the things that we were doing and the need for this service at all. So, some of you have probably heard the play called The Vagina Monologues, and in the late 90s, early 2000s, lots of colleges began to produce this play. I will tell you that, you know, I've already said vagina today more times than like one would ever say it professionally at that time. I might continue to do so. So it was, again, high priority. I got the go-ahead from my vice president to do it, and it became a transformative experience. It helped people move from isolation to community, from a time where saying that word was taboo and where people felt shame around their experiences related to their vagina, related to being a woman, related to being a person with a vagina. And so it was just, again, something that wasn't really talked about. So instead of just approaching it as, and I don't want to say just, instead of approaching it as like a performance, a play, entertainment, our approach was educational. So we brought together over 60 community members, including faculty, staff, and students, to put this production on. And we worked with fraternities. This was a university, so fraternities, sororities, athletes, the feminist group on campus, what was called the Gay Straight Alliance on campus. And we all came together to support this production. Lots of educational events open to all of those groups and all of the community. And then for a couple months before we actually started rehearsal, we brought folks together in community building spaces once a week. As the people that were involved in the production, whether they were performing or running crew or doing other parts of it. And we had We also had a significant population of students who were deaf because this institution was home of the National Technical Institute for the Deaf. And so we decided that we would perform this simultaneously in English and American Sign Language. So on stage, for every monologue, we had 2 actors. They were not interpreting for one another. The person using ASL was using performing their interpretation of the monologue, and similarly with the person who was using English. So it was incredible. As we're leading up to it for the first performance, and this was in 2001. So this is Rochester, New York. If you don't know anything about Rochester, New York, it's one of the cities that gets the most snow in the country every winter. And it was on February 14th because it was promoted as a Valentine's Day kind of a thing, alternative. And my vice president comes to me and she says, I really think you need to cancel. Because the snow is really coming down. And I've talked about in New York we can deal with snow, but it was more than we could deal. It's coming down fast. It was icy, and the roads were getting pretty treacherous. Well, we had a whole community resource fair as a part of this. We had community organizations coming in. We had the performers ready to go. We had the stage for that night. We had a 500-person auditorium. And I said to her, I said, if we don't do it tonight, we can't do it. We can't replicate what we've prepared for tonight. And she said, okay, well, I'm gonna go home because I gotta let the dogs out and I probably won't come back. I said, okay. She lost out. So we're waiting and we're really wondering if anybody's gonna show up. And the people just start to stream in. And the theater was full. It was beyond full. People were sitting in the aisles. Now I would be like, oh, liability, but it was good. People were, they were just so excited to be there, right? And so we did the performance. At that time, we only did 1 performance. As the years went on, we did 3 performances because there was so much demand for people to see this. And it just was an incredible feeling of accomplishment. Any of you who've completed a major project, you've been in a team that did something like this, you've performed, you know that feeling of accomplishment when at the end you just know that you hit it right. And this picture is from our curtain call that night. And it was amazing. So this really has been, for me, a hallmark of how, I think about the importance of community, how we come together, even with difficult topics, how we overcome resistance to make actual policy change. So I'm just going to share a few of the lessons that I learned from this, and that I hope you will all, and I know you already do with many of these, come to the work that we do here. So one is a common sense of purpose. So it wouldn't be Pierce if I didn't say our mission is to create quality educational opportunities for a diverse community of learners to thrive in an evolving world. We say that all the time. All of you, if you're new here, learn it. You'll get it. It's easy. We know that that's our mission. We know that that is why we exist, and that each part of that mission is important. Diverse community of learners, quality educational opportunities, thriving in an evolving world. Those are the things that we do. I would say the second bullet is really one of the key things, that you have to have diverse, inclusive, equitable, and accountable communities for systems and policy change. You can't do it alone. If you remember that community circle that I showed you, there's the individual well-being, but without the support of your community and the greater society, we're not going to make the kind of change. We're going to stay in that isolation. We're going to stay sometimes in that shame, in that pain, and those are all valid. And how do we come together as a community for change? I learned that resistance is part of the goal, not the goal, part of the deal, we're going to get that, right? I have actually lots of stories about being called into the president's office more than once for things that he was concerned about. And it wasn't just from him, though. It was from some students, it was from some faculty and staff. They felt like this was pushing the limits too far. And one of the things, and I have to, again, give credit to Dr. Lett for the love model, that ultimately you keep doing these things with love, and you follow the listen, observe, value, validate, and embrace as you're building community. Yes. And you come together and you make change. I'm really pleased to share that with this work there was change, and now you get to see a picture of me when I had lived fewer years than I have lived now. I was doing a presentation to the college community about the work that we had done. We changed policy internally. We built advocacy systems for survivors of violence. We strengthened our policies and accountability for our campus police and for our local law enforcement. We built, at the time it was called the Women's Center. It is now, they've changed the name. There's still a center. It's, I think, Gender and Queer Center. There's a Gender Center, Q Center. So it's much, the work has been systematized and expanded. Obviously, other people carried that on, and I don't get credit for that, but I feel good about the foundation that was laid when I was there. And we actually did research that demonstrated reduction in the incidence of sexual and relationship violence on our campus. So this work is long, but it's possible. And that's what I want us to think about today. So I'm going to have you go back into your tables and Zoom breakouts of 3 and talk for a little bit about what have you learned about building community towards a common purpose in your work, professional, personal, whatever it might be. When did you make progress and what motivated you? So I'm going to give you a little time to talk about that at your tables. Thanks. So now's the time where I'd like to hear from you if you wish to speak. Is there anybody, I'm looking at our executive team members to see if you have microphones and there goes Andrew, there goes Holly, thank you. You got one, all right. And see if anybody, and we'll go back and forth. And actually, I'll start in Zoom. So do we have the capability to hear from our folks in Zoom? Okay. So if you are in Zoom and maybe, if you're in Zoom and would like to share, I'd just like to ask you anything that you talked about around building community towards a common purpose. Yeah, let's see if we can get them on the screen. Thank you, Kyle. Do they have the capability to raise their hand? There we go. Hello, Zoom. Can you hear us? Yes. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Vicki. Awesome. All right. So if you would like to make a comment to this question around building community towards a common purpose and things you've learned, your experience, we'll start with anybody in Zoom who would like to speak. Do they have the capability to raise their hand, or should they just unmute? Okay, so just go ahead and unmute. Do I see Ms. Jackie? Oh. So I'll say that one more time. So if you're in Zoom and would like to speak, just go ahead and unmute. Kelly? Oh, hang on. Wait, Kelly. We're switching back and forth between audio systems, so we can't hear you. She can't hear me. It's the first time we've tried to do this in this big session. It's more complicated than you might think. Should we have them try again in Zoom, or? Okay, so Zoom, hang on. We have to switch between audio systems for when we talk in the room versus when you talk. So if you give us a minute to coordinate that, we're going to start in the room, and then hopefully we'll be able to hear from you. Apologies. All right, in the room. Anybody would like to share your thoughts around building community, experiences you've had? I see a hand back there. Cannot see that far to see who you are, but I see your hand. And Andrew's coming over with a microphone.
Okay. I'm Carrie. I'm an advisor in Puyallup, and we talked a lot about the service disruption and how, for instance, Puyallup advising in general, we had to work together as a team to get our students enrolled however we could do that. With the lack of having computers, internet, having to use phones, our goal in the end was to get our students enrolled. So that was really just like working as a team. A lot of us had worked together during COVID, so it's really that like bonded trauma of like getting through these things, and I couldn't have worked with a better team. So, and just being supportive of one another and all the other things that we have going on in our personal lives, but still being able to be there. Yeah, that's what we got.
Thank you, Kelly. And I just want to say, those enrollment numbers that I showed you in fall 2023 are particularly astounding in the light of the service disruption that we had during the enrollment period. So thank you, Puyallup Student Success Center, and all of our employees who supported our students. That was incredible. All right, let's see if we can hear from Zoom. We're going to give it another go, everyone.
I'm unmuting and seeing if anybody can hear me. Yeah? Okay. I'm unmuted so that I can point out that when you last asked this question, Vicky Scanlon jumped right in and started saying stuff and everybody listened. So I just stuck my hand out so that Vicky could speak.
Thank you, Sam.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I get, this topic of building community, I appreciate having the virtual option for those of us who are unable to be on campus. I would like to see us find ways for us to better communicate when we're virtually attending, because I feel very isolated. And I feel like I'm a bad kid. I think I'm going to stop because I hear funny things.
There was a bit of an echo, Vicki. Thank you for sharing that. We have made some efforts to try to improve community building by providing back channel Teams chat for folks who are remote to participate in. And so we're continuing to work on that. I'll just say we're continuing to work on that, and I appreciate your feedback and your participation. Hang on, Vicki, we have to switch the audio over again. Go ahead. Oh, okay. So for folks on Zoom, so you just have to give us a minute because we're switching the audio sources when we go back and forth between the room and Zoom. So apologies for that. Vicki, did you want to say something else? We can, if you give us just a moment, and we should be good now. Go ahead, Vicki, if you wanted to say more. Okay. Oh, thank you all for bearing with us. Like, this is the first time we've tried this, so thank you to our tech team who's working with us here. All right, we'll come back. Let's try, I'll say one more in the room, and if we have it, and one more from Zoom. So anybody else in the room would like to share around building community? I see a hand over here. Please introduce yourself.
Hi, good morning. My name is Tanya Jones. I work in enrollment services here at Pierce College, Fort Chillicothe. We were talking at our table, today is a form of building community, you know, collectively, because we're here, the people that we don't often get to run in errands or just talk with every day at Puyallup, we get to build that community here. I sat at a table full of guys and I told them, I said, look at this community we got right here. So we just started talking about how most of our day is here at Pierce. If we look at a 24-hour clock, we got 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to be here, and 8 hours to do whatever, but some of that 8 hours is taken to come here, to get prepared for here. So a lot of our time in that 24-hour period, we're here at this campus. So it's like we got family here. Some we like, some we don't, some we get to know, some we're finding out about how it is. It's family. So the best thing we can do for each other is when you get up in the morning and you come to work, know you're going to your second family, and there's going to be some that's going to make you smile, and there's going to be some that's going to make you mad. But we're here for the students and each other. So if we can help each other every day when we get here, because we are family, and remember that, we're just here to help because we're going to help somebody else help somebody. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Tanya. Is there another person who would like to come off mute and speak? Just give us like a 5-10 second delay to switch our audio source.
Are you ready for me?
We're ready, Kelly.
I would just like to say, today is a perfect example of how when we are trying to work together for a common purpose, it's really important to trust that everybody is doing the best they can and to give people a little bit of grace when things don't go perfectly.
Thank you so much, Kelly, and thank you for everyone who shared. And I'm reminded of how Tanya referenced it and what Kelly said, and all of you, that when we are in community, when we are in families, when we are in relationship, we don't always get along. We have conflicts. That's the nature of humans, is to have conflicts. And the example that I gave you with the vagina monologues, there were lots of conflicts, both internal to the production and external. And I think that folks have said it well. What we have to do is we have to listen. We have to value the other people in our community who may think differently from us. We have to build a relationship of trust so that when things get hard, we've got that to fall back on, and we have to remain accountable to moving things forward and to doing the work. And I know that you do that every day, and I appreciate that so much. All right, so thank you for that. We're going to move on a little bit. If we could switch back to the PowerPoint. Oh, you're way ahead of me. So what does the future look like? I don't have a crystal ball, but I think this is what we need to be thinking about. As you know, we completed our 7-year accreditation cycle. Next week, I will appear along with Elder and Allison before the Northwest Commission to talk about our great work, to respond to the concerns and recommendations and commendations that the commissioner or that the peer reviewers gave us. And then they will vote on whether or not we get reaccredited. I'm not concerned that that's not going to go well by any means, but we are always in a cycle of continuous improvement, and we have work to do. And we are facing ever-changing conditions. So as we kick off our next 7-year cycle, which will include a review of our strategic plan and our institutional effectiveness process, I felt it would be important for us to spend a little bit of time thinking together about the future. And I want to start by just sharing some trends in higher education that you already know about, and we've seen, I know there are several sessions on artificial intelligence, which is going to upend and impact all of these. But these are trends that were identified in a book called The Great Upheaval that compares the changes that and pressures that are occurring for higher education to changes we've seen in news industry, entertainment industry, music industries, and how we might be impacted by similar forces. So we're going to continue to have competition from new education providers, and they are not all colleges and universities. They are other companies. They are for-profit technology companies, and that is going to continue and most likely increase, which will drive up competition and drive down prices because we're going to have that kind of market. We are going to see less control of higher education from our institutions and more emphasis on the power of, again, what these authors are calling higher education consumers. And they use that language because many folks who are seeking post-secondary education think of themselves as consumers. But we may not, we think of them as students, we think of them as citizens. But our pressures in our society are such that they're looking at the price and the outcomes very often. Students are going to seek from colleges the same things they're getting from the music, movie, and newspaper industries, which means things when they want, how they want them, with a low price. And that is going to continue to exert pressure on our traditional models of higher education. There will be more emphasis on outcomes, so from the student's perspective. So what did I learn and what did it get me? As opposed to, we think of higher education as about seat time, right? How long, and all of our certificates and degrees, the Carnegie units are all based on how many times are the students, and of course now they're virtual, but in many cases, but what's their time in a seat, so to speak. There's already talk of really rethinking the Carnegie unit and how we do things. So over the next 5 to 10 years, I think we're likely to see some real changes in that model. And along with that, we have time-bound degrees. You do your thing for 1 year, 2 years, 4 years, depending on what your goal is. And the authors call this just-in-case education. So many of us went to college at a time when it was like, well, I'm going to get a college degree in case I need it. I probably need it to get a job. Now they are likely to want just-in-time education. I need the education and training I need when I need it. And so, again, we'll see if these will come to bear, but we are seeing a lot of trends, a lot of action already that affirms these trends. And all of these, and what we're able to do, and especially what education providers with more resources than we have will be able to do, is going to really start to vary if we don't keep pace, if our state allocations don't keep pace, and if we don't keep pace with the needs of our students. And so that's a challenge, and I do think that artificial intelligence will exacerbate some of this. And I look forward to hearing from the experts in that field later today. So, wanted to share some of that. And one of the things that the authors of this book, and I've extrapolated this a little bit, they talk about how higher education institutions can keep themselves relevant. And I believe it's really about having a connection to community. There's that word again. Internally, and in particular, increasingly externally. And I've shown you this slide before as we talk about community impact, and it's another one that I wanted to repeat. because we've got to reach deeper into our communities. And we know that in Pierce County, less than 1/3 of adults over the age of 25 have any post-secondary education. So there are folks out there who would benefit from what we have to offer. And if we were really reaching out and partnering with them more and more, we wouldn't have concern about enrollment. Because, we've got to partner with them and again, demonstrate our value and hear from them about their needs. Centering equity, thinking about completion, actually before I go on, centering equity, again, not just thinking about the inequities here, but societally, as an example that I gave earlier. Thinking about completion is not just that's not the end goal. Completion of a degree, there is a purpose for it. We know that higher education degrees lead to increased economic and social mobility, ability for people to care for their families, be self-sufficient. Demonstrating that is super important. Again, shifting from whole college transformation to whole community transformation, that's a challenge in Pierce County. There are so many people and so many communities, but again, how do we partner with those communities and demonstrate how we can work together? And thinking about our collective community impact. So I think that these are the things that we should be doing because they're the right thing to do, and they will help folks see why Pierce College is relevant and what we can do together to make our communities better. So with that, I'm gonna give you one more activity to do. All right, I'm just looking at the time. We've got time. All right, so you have art supplies at your table, which you are welcome to use. If you are not at a table, nobody wanted to sit with me, so that table is free. There's also space along the side, and there are supplies there. This is a time for you to just demonstrate what your ideal vision of for Pierce College is, how you would contribute to making that a reality. Now, for those of you on Zoom, you've got the QR code, or you can join menti.com, and the code is there on the slide. And we're also in Zoom going to put you in random breakout groups of 6, so that you're not just doing this by yourselves. So we're going to probably won't finish this all by the time it's time for lunch. We're going to give you a little time to exercise your creative side. There are some extra boards around if anybody wants to grab one and do both an individual and a table one, go for it. I want to thank you for bearing with us as we tried to make this session more engaging and more hybrid participant friendly. We'll keep working on that. And I'm gonna ask us to go out with one of the songs that I listen to when I need to hype myself up for the day. And I think it demonstrates what the rest of the day is gonna be like. Let's go ahead and cue the song. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.